The rise of the pig people, Michael Snyder reports. In all of human history, has there ever been a society more gluttonous than our own? We are addicted to sex, drugs, shopping, we're addicted to eating, we're addicted to entertainment, and our biggest addiction of all may be money. Even though we are handed the keys to the greatest economic machine in the world has ever seen, it was never enough for us. We always had to have more, and so we have run up the largest single mountain of debt in the entire history of the planet. If you could believe it, on Monday, the size of the U.S. national debt crossed $33 trillion mark for the very first time. The U.S. national debt topped $33 trillion for the first time ever on Monday, crossing a critical milestone at a time when government spending is already under scrutiny. The national debt, which measures what the U.S. owes its creditors, hit $33.04 trillion as of Monday afternoon, according to new data published by the Treasury Department. By comparison, just 4 decades ago, the national debt hovered around $907 billion. 4 decades ago, yes. I don't know if I even have the words to describe how reckless our leaders have become. It took from the founding of our nation all the way up to 1980 for the national debt to reach $1 trillion, but now we have added $1 trillion to the national debt in just 3 months, and thanks to the rising interest rates, interest payments on our debt are projected to increase an exponential rate in the years ahead. In fact, interest payments on the national debt are projected to be the fastest growing part of the federal budget over the next 3 decades, according to CRFB. Payments are expected to triple from nearly $475 billion in fiscal year 2022 to a stunning $1.4 trillion in 1932. By 2053, the interest payments are projected to surge to $5.4 trillion. To put that into perspective, that will be more than the U.S. spends on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all other mandatory and discretionary spending programs. Of course, we are far from alone. At this point, total global debt exceeds $300 trillion. Global debt hit a record of $3.7 trillion in the US dollars in the second quarter of the year, despite rising interest rates curbing bank credit, with markets such as the US and Japan driving the rise, the Institute of International Finance, IFF, said on Tuesday. The Financial Services Trade Group said in a report that global debt in US dollar terms had risen by $10 trillion in the first half of this year and by $100 trillion over the past decade. It said that the latest increase has lifted the global debt to GDP ratio for a second straight quarter to 336%. But we are by far the biggest offenders, and that is because we are extremely gluttonous pig people, quote unquote, that simply do not care that we are literally destroying the future of our children and our grandchildren. Sadly, the politicians that are racking up all of this debt are extremely gluttonous pig people too. Thanks to Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and members of the U.S. Senate will be allowed to dress any way they want from this period forward. Breaking news relevant to only 100 Americans, the U.S. Senate will no longer enforce its dress code for members. Is this yet another sign of constitutional decadence, or is it a step into modernity for the fusty, antiquated chamber? Either way, it's the best news ever for Senator John Fetterman, Democrat, Pennsylvania, who preferred to do business while looking like he's on a Saturday morning jog. Do we really want our representatives in Washington to look like a bunch of slobs? What kind of message is that going to send to the general population? And what kind of message is that going to send to the rest of the world? It's being reported that Chuck Schumer made this change specifically to accommodate John Fetterman. In the recent opinion piece, Maureen Callahan made very clear that she thinks about that. If we are to accept that everything is fine with Fetterman, then reasonable people can conclude that he simply does not care. We can assume that he's lazy, a slob, and is happy to present himself as someone who is not bringing 100% to the job, that he is a narcissist who thinks that a centuries-old dress code for members of Congress should not apply to him, that DC should lower its standards to meet his shoveliness, and laughably, as a source close to Fetterman once claimed, that his relaxed, comfortable style is a sign that the senator is making a robust recovery. Sure, nothing says you've beaten back depression by dressing as though you have not gotten off the couch for a week. Nothing says self-respect like showing up to the hill in clothes you'd wear to scrub the tub. Most of us dress better for a coffee run. I could not have said that better myself. As a nation, we're also deeply addicted to drugs. Today, more Americans than ever before are addicted to legal and illegal drugs, and more Americans than ever are dying from those addictions. According to NPR, drug overdose deaths set a brand new record over last year. And that was, now drug overdose deaths set a brand new record, and the year before that, you get the picture. Our addiction to food is also killing many of us. In fact, we're being told that the number of Americans that die from heart disease each year, with obesity as a factor, has actually tripled since 1999. The number of Americans who died of heart disease with obesity as a factor has tripled since 1999. Obesity now affects 42% of all Americans and 20% of children. Therefore, of course, we are even more addicted to sex than we are to food. And I don't want to go sharing what he says here because he says he's absolutely floored when he found out and when he heard about it. What happened in Dallas. So that is supposed to be a church. The pledge got even worse when it went out to say having to do with various people there. Now, what is next? Our church is going to start reciting pledges to Satan during their worship service. We can't fall much farther than we have already fallen, and if we stay on the path that we're currently on, there will be no future for our country. But most Americans don't want to be bothered by any of this. Most Americans just want to continue to enjoy their addictions for as long as they possibly can. Unfortunately for them, the clock is ticking, and their seemingly endless party is about to come to a very abrupt conclusion. This is by Michael Snyder. He says, about the author, my name is Michael. My brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I have also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream and the Most Important News, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.